Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. The man who rules the world breaks in a brand new partner to help him take care of business in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Taking Care of Business at paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. A black Dunkin' Donuts manager was charged with manslaughter after fatally punching a man who called him a racial slur. Now, in this incident, which took place in Tampa, Florida, a 77-year-old man who was a regular customer at this Dunkin' Donuts gas station in Tampa, Florida, drove his car to the drive-thru window and became upset about the service. And after being rude to several of the staffers, he was asked to leave. But instead of him leaving the drive-thru, he decided to park his car in the parking lot and then went inside the building. And this is when he began arguing with the store's black manager, Corey Pujols. Now, this 27-year-old man told police that this man was being extremely rude and called him a racial slur. And when he asked the man to repeat it, the elderly man repeated the slur, and Pujols punched him in the face. The blow caused him to hit his head on the floor, and the whole incident was captured by the store's surveillance system. And as a result, the man was knocked unconscious, and he wound up bleeding from the head. He was taken to Campbell Hospital and wound up dying 2 days later. And as a result, your Corey Pujols wound up being arrested and charged for the manslaughter of this 77-year-old man. Now, when I take a critical examination of this incident, it fits right in line with the pattern and profile I talk about regarding beta males in my book, The Man Crisis. And when I look at this incident, I not only see one beta male, but two beta males who participated in behavior that led to the death of this 77-year-old man. And I have to say that this 77-year-old man was partially responsible for his own demise, because this 77-year-old man clearly had issues as related to having discipline and self-control, and because he could not control himself, he wound up escalating a situation at this Dunkin' Donuts, and he wound up creating a situation where he wound up putting himself in a situation where he put his life in danger. Now, I know some of these fast food places have service that does not meet some people's expectations, but it doesn't give anybody a right to go to some of these places and verbally abuse the staff because they believe they are moving too slow or not providing the service that they want. I mean, any critical thinking person who sees that they're not getting the service that they want, what they're going to do is say, I'm not going to shop here anymore, and I'm just going to go to the next business down the block. Unfortunately, when you have your beta males like this individual who is used to their routine, they're used to doing things their way, and they want everything to fit the way they want it to be, because in their world, everything has to be smooth, and they can't deal with conflicts or obstacles or problems. And whenever there is a problem, many of these males really don't know how to navigate through their emotions, and because they don't know how to navigate through their emotions, they wind up losing it because everything that was supposed to make their world smooth is rough, and then they want to make everybody have a hard time because things aren't going the way they expected. So in this situation, this 77-year-old man was used to his routine. He wanted things his way, and when things didn't go his way, he wound up being extremely rude to the staff at this restaurant. And then when they asked him to leave because he did not have good discipline and self-control, he escalated the situation by going and parking his car in the parking lot and then going in the restaurant to continue bickering and arguing with the staff in that restaurant, because this 77-year-old man was acting on his feelings instead of navigating through his emotions. And because he was acting on his feelings, he was going out to go and argue with these individuals over some things that possibly they had no control over, because sometimes the staff doesn't really have a control over what products are available in the store, and sometimes the staff in the store really don't have a real control over what services are provided, because sometimes things just aren't ready yet, sometimes things aren't there. But that doesn't matter to the beta male, because the beta male wants his world smooth and he wants everything his way. And if he can't get his way, he's going to go out here and lose it and let everybody have a piece of their mind. Now, as this man went into the restaurant to argue with the staff there, the manager, Corey Poolholz, a 27-year-old man, tried to intervene. Now, this young man, as I see it, was probably too young for this job, but he was another beta male, and this beta male, he was winding up with his emotions wound up, and he really, again, didn't have much experience as related to critical thinking or problem solving. And as he went back and forth with this individual then had the audacity to call this black manager a racial slur. And this man went, because once he was called a racial slur, then got emotional and decided to hit this individual. And I guess he was thinking, I'm going to let this put this racist in his place based on his feelings about the whole incident. But unfortunately, what happened was, after he wound up punching this 77-year-old man in the face, what happened was, this man, because he was older and really fragile, he wound up hitting his head on the floor as he got hit with that knockout punch for his racial slur. And what happened was, he wound up crashing to the ground and his head hit the floor and he wound up bleeding. And then they wound up taking him to the hospital, probably because he wound up getting some brain damage as a result. And then this man wound up losing his life. But this black man, I believe, probably would not have reacted that way had it not been for this racist looking to go out here and push his buttons, because this racist was the one who, again, started this incident. And while some people would say, oh, this black manager could have easily worked through his emotions, and he should have worked through his emotions, but when these guys go out here and call these racial slurs, a lot of black people today are not turning the other cheek by walking away. No, they're turning the cheek with their fist. But this guy, again, maybe he should have been doing some critical thinking, because the consequences of getting even with this racist wound up costing him, because he not only lost his job, he's also lost his freedom, because once he wound up punching out this white supremacist racist, what happened was he wound up crashing to the ground, and he wound up dying, and it was all caught on videotape in the store. So this man has been arrested and charged with manslaughter, and sadly, it's all because he didn't really think critically about the situation, and he really did not apply any problem-solving skills. Because when you have an individual like this, the whole thing that you can do with them is not to argue with them. And if they come into the facility looking to continue to escalate their behavior after being asked to leave, the best thing to do is call the police, because at that point, this individual is trespassing on your property. Unfortunately, this young man, Corey Poolholz, did not have the critical thinking skills at the time to know how to assess the situation and solve the problem in a constructive manner, because if he did, he would have understood that the only way to solve a problem with a racist like this is to go out here and call the police, because if he doesn't have a weapon, the whole best thing to do when he's trying to use his words as a way to attack you is to try to keep yourself cool and wait until law enforcement arrives, and then they will escort this individual off your property and make it where they can't come back to your business. But when I look at this whole situation, I see yet another beta male who just had no discipline or self control. And as a result of his extremely dysfunctional behavior, it led to him winding up losing his life because he did not know how to think critically. He did not know how to navigate through his emotions. And he did not understand that if the store is not providing a service that you want, then you just drive away and you move on because life is too short to be sitting here getting upset because a fast food place is not providing you with the service that you want. No, a man is going to sit there and say, okay, they don't have the coffee or the donuts that I want, then I'm going to move on because this is not my life. It's just one day where they don't have a product. I mean, this morning I went to the ShopRite and they didn't have the items I wanted in stock. So I just picked up what I was looking for and certain other items and then just moved on. I mean, that's what a man does, but a lot of beta males, they don't really understand that routines sometimes get disrupted and you have to adapt to a situation if you hope to be able to move your life forward. And sometimes you have to adapt if you hope to survive. Unfortunately, some beta males don't know how to adapt. And in this case, sadly, we had two guys coming against each other. And because neither one had good critical thinking skills or problem solving skills, what happened was we had a black man, sadly, who reacted to a racist. And when he reacted to that racist and wound up trying to punch this guy out to teach him a lesson, he wound up learning a really bad lesson about the criminal justice system. And he learned a sad lesson about not really taking your freedom for granted because when it comes down to toxic customers, and I've run into a lot of toxic customers when I used to work at places like the Food Emporium back in the day and places like the City College Science Library and even the Strive Job Readiness Workshop, I understood that I needed to keep control over myself. I needed to keep my emotions in check. And some people would say, oh, you're being really stoic. But sometimes a man has to be stoic because it helps him keep some control, because he understands he can't act on his feelings, because if he acts on his feelings, what will happen is he will wind up losing in the long run. And what a man will lose is like this young man, Corey Poulos, at 27 years old, he's going to possibly lose not only this Dunkin' Donuts manager job, but he's also going to lose the intangible of his freedom. And instead of him going back and forth to work at this job as a manager, he's going to be sadly going into the prison system because of the video that was shown. And he's going to spend the rest of his life or a couple of years in prison having to deal with Bubba and Tiny. And he shouldn't have had to do that if he had the right guidance and support. I mean, if this guy had people to look out for him and he also had somebody to give him some training on how to deal with these kind of situations, he would not be in the criminal justice system. He'd be at work and he'd be able to understand that, yes, let this guy go on and on and on. But what you do is you tune it out and then you wait for the police, because they will deal with him and they will deal with his behavior, because the best way to deal with guys like this is to let law enforcement deal with them, because once you ask an individual to leave your property, it is then trespassing. And then once they get arrested for trespassing, you can get the last laugh on that individual. And that when it comes down to it, these type of situations, again, you need a man to teach another man about things as related to problem solving. And sadly, because Corey Poulos didn't get that training, he wound up becoming a man in crisis. And he wound up becoming a man who wound up losing the most important intangible of his freedom, because he did not know how to handle a racist in a way that really sends the ultimate lesson that they can't disrespect you because you are on the side of right. And when you're on the side of right, sometimes you have to accept some things, like listening to this foolishness for a minute before police come in and take this guy out. But the whole thing is that, again, This 77-year-old man was a super beta male, and he created a crisis, and that crisis wound up costing him his life. And it cost him his life all because he got caught up in his feelings about some service at a Dunkin' Donuts store, something that is so minor and insignificant, but this is par for the course with beta males. The least little thing sets them off, and the least little thing leads to them getting violent. And whenever you're dealing with a beta male, you have to understand you have to be able to think critically and problem solve, because these guys aren't thinking critically. They're emotional, they're irrational, and they can put your life in danger. And that's why you have to have your head on a swivel, because these men, when they go out here and push buttons, they could lead to you with your life in crisis, like your Corey Poolhouse, who is now in a situation where he may wind up doing some prison time and may wind up losing the record and not able to ever work again. Now, if you want to learn more about the toxic behavior of beta males like this 77-year-old racist, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com. And in that book, I detail all of the reasons why these beta males participate in their extremely dysfunctional behavior, and why these men are extremely dangerous, and why they need to be avoided at all costs. Now, if you also want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my other books, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Hayes series, and the books of the Spencer trilogy, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available for the first time on Google Play, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are falling apart in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy on Google Play today.